Good morning, everybody. Sorry for the lull there. I'm sitting, concentrating, trying to figure out why this little program of mine is not working anymore. This is the program that I use that interfaces with the IVAO client so that when I press a certain button, when that one is incorrect, so that needs to be none. Ooh, clear. Yeah, okay. So as far as I can remember, that's it. So when you press the button 1, it should trigger the right control key on the keyboard. Well, as if it is the keyboard. And yesterday this thing just decided to stop, and you can see if I press it, it doesn't change color. Usually it was like green and yellow and red all over and things like that. I've checked the alpha yoke. It's honeycomb yoke is working perfectly in Windows. It works perfectly. It's just that this program can't see it. Good morning, Peter. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what this thing wants. See, it just does not pick up a single command, even if I turn or push and pull or nothing. It's just not seeing that controller. And I've just updated it. This is now a new version. I uninstalled the old one, updated the new one. Let's go down the line. Maybe one of them picks up under a different ID. I'm not going to waste too much time on this, but ooh, look at that. All those joysticks. 50 of them. Don't get it. Five joysticks detected. Then if I press button number 1, it highlights. There, it works. Paul, any wise words of wisdom?
Be like custard.
Morning.
Morning. What do you mean, be like custard?
Find your own level and don't get excited.
Those are good words of wisdom. You did not disappoint. So guess what? That goes Tata bye bye. Okay, morning John, morning Barry. I think it was John who said hello earlier. So anyway, okay. Let's leave that. We're not gonna worry too much about that then. Okay, so good news. Zibo has given me version 16C and he's requested a test flight. So this morning's ordinary flight has now turned into another show for show and tell and test situation for the Zibo mod. So let's do this. Alright, so this is little nav map, and if you guys have ever wondered, and if you haven't seen the tutorial yet on how I do this, basically I take the flight plan, and this is to put the map on the AviTab module in the Zibo tablet. So let's go to new flight, so ZH, paste EGKK, and create the plan. Hello Andrew, good morning. Right, so that is the route, and if I now save this into the AviTab format in the correct folder, we're going to see that map in AviTab. We don't want this save. Alright, okay. Uncle John, you will be well pleased to know that I have the 8 cars open. I must just remember to press the start button now.
Thank you, sir.
All right. What else do I need? I don't think I need anything. I need the IVA pilot client and I need explain to start.
I'm already on the ground.
All right. I'm going to figure out which stand I'm at just now. Wow. Okay. Steve, but what does the log file say? Either in the explain log or in the Windows Event Manager, there should be a fault. Or are we talking about this device loss error? Because, I mean, I had it twice in the week, actually. And after updating my VGA card, that the drivers for NVIDIA went away. Right, that's cool. Ah, wrong place. What's that stand number you said you're on, Uncle John?
26, I'll check.
Is it like a Bravo 26 or just a 26?
Charlie 56, sir.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, I'll take Charlie 53. I have no idea what's waiting there, but there you go. Gents, in the group flight section, I've put my whole flight plan, stand number, everything. If you guys want to fly with, just read it there. Okay. Times. Let's start.
To confirm, cruise 340, sir.
Let me have a look. See. What the wise oracle there at Simbrief gave me. Let's see. Yeah, 360. Got it. It's a bit
Did you
high.
say 36?
Yeah, it's a bit.
I've got 34.
Okay. It's okay. You know, it's a bit high. It really is, but is what it is. I'm gonna file this on Novaya while we're waiting.
QNH 1011.
I shall have a look. But just means that we're not gonna have much of a cruise phase. We're gonna go up and shortly after down. But anyway, it should be enough. You know, Steve, I started reading your comment and then I started chatting. I've just read the last sentence. I see you talking about the MTL crash. I'm sorry, I'm still waking up. That freaking MTL crash is a pain, man. While we're talking about it, you don't have Watsim and Ivea fighting with each other. Are you sure you disabled the VATSIM components in your SIM, that there isn't an influence? I'm just going to let it settle, then we'll do the reload.
Did you bring enough coins to put in the machine to pay for your fuel this morning?
Yes, 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 yes. Okay, Steve, cool. Yeah, that's the way I do it too. Paul, I actually made special arrangements. Look, they
Good
came
day,
overnight
Captain.
just for us.
Please
They came
start
and
the
removed
ACARS.
those things, you know. They said it's fine.
Oh.
They'll just not, bother about it. They'll turn a blind eye to us. It's when we get back to Gatwick, that's when we need to worry again. I don't have a contact there, you see.
All right. Tasso might have one or two.
Yes.
Call in a favour.
Okay, so we are taking runway 34. That's what we're spawning here. After yesterday's exorbitantly long taxi, we thought we're going to spoil ourselves today, and we're just going to start up right here close to the runway again. Brum, 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 brum.
Good day, Captain. Please start the ACARS.
All right, guys, sorry for the lull there. My wife just came to show me something, and I had to quickly listen. So there we go. Uncle John, ACARS is started for your information, sir.
Excellent.
I'm going to connect on Iveo now. There we go. And there you are. need to look for other John. Ooh, there are a couple of guys. There's another Dix over there. Let's reload this weather as well. Make sure it's perfect. Skymaxx Pro force weather reload. Right. Okay, so just to confirm. Oh, and by the way, you'll see my tablet looks a little bit different. Jared sent me an NML file last night, Uncle John Paul, to make my tablet metallic. How's that?
Fantastic.
That's
Very
so cool.
shiny.
Very cool. The first time I've seen it now as well. Right, so
Can I just intercept?
yeah.
Tix194, are you in love with Nico or something?
Why?
You're right on top of him, sir.
We're holding hands, man. We're holding hands. It's okay. That's perfect. It's okay.
What stand did you say?
I'm on 53 and he's on 52. But in the scenery,
Yeah.
the two are literally next to each other, you know, so it's okay. I don't mind. Who cares?
No, I mind. I'm changing.
Okay, all right.
I'm going to 50.
Okay,
That's perfect.
perfect. All right, so guys, sorry.
Sorry about my little bit of fun.
It's okay, it's all right. So just for the record, this is 16C. I have to show it to just make sure, check myself, and obviously if Zibo queries it, because being a test flight, it's important. So let's start loading then. Payload 16.2. And there he moves.
Thank you kindly, sir. Holding hands this time of morning is not allowed.
Well, Uncle John, it is so cold here. I've got the heater running, you know. Sorry, I can't resist just working on your nerves. Fuel 6.3.
Ground flight deck hose is connected and starting refueling.
Nico, just a question.
Yes.
Okay, fuel, we get the fuel. Payload is also. What about the cargo? How do we...
No, what you do is you take the payload value. If you look at my OFP, you take this value.
Okay.
That value is the sum total of the 141 passengers plus bags plus the cargo. So you just put the sum total and the Zibo will distribute it. Don't worry about the sub distribution. You know, whatever is here at the top.
Ground flight deck fuel is all loaded up and you are good to go.
Okay, my fuel's loaded. Just had to wait for that guy. Okay, so for us, it doesn't matter what the dispensation is in terms of male, female, and children, and which seat and which row and things like that. All we care about is we want the payload total, which is 16.2. All right.
Okay.
And then what I do, because by default the Zibo code is written to give you a stable takeoff CG, so it will distribute it that way automatically. But I prefer a stable landing CG. So what I do is, and this is from experience, I take 500 kilograms from the front and I put it in the back. Okay, and once we load it, I'll show you. If you come to this graph, there's going to be an additional little cross, a green one that says landing weight CG, and that one needs to be as close as possible to 21.5, and that's your stable landing CG. You understand? So currently it's not showing because the FMC is not set up. It doesn't have a reference value. But I now know from experience when we're talking a load of about 16, 17, 18, 19, those kind of things, we just take the value in the front and throw it in the back, or we take at least 500 kilograms. So we'll see once we set up. We'll come back and we'll revisit that just for you today. Okay.
Okay, so 500 from the front goes to the back.
Yes, but it depends on that graph. I just know from experience when I load it, that's how mine works. But I would prefer to give you the knowledge to help yourself in the future, so that you don't just follow me blindly. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So we're gonna set it up, and then we'll come back and I'll explain to you again. And I want my limo today. I feel special. Right, so better push back. Let's plan this thing.
Blanco cockpit. Plan acknowledged. Call me through the menu when you are ready.
We'll do that. There's my limo, guys. I never put the arrival, sorry. I want to just quickly grab it on the outside. Chart 10, 3J3. Alright. 3J3. Our approach is that one. That is final approach, and then we need to look for initial approach. Okay, and then we need to look for the arrival, and the arrival is 22C2. 2C2. Alright, so there we have a flight level, there we have a flight level.
Update ready to push.
Okay. Uncle John, I need about 10 minutes, then I can go. Then I'm okay. He's very fast. I'm not going to go into detail what he did in between me starting the stream and where he's at now, but this guy is moving. Hey, Uncle John, you don't let the grass grow under your feet there. Eh?
I get out of bed in the morning, Nico.
Oh, you do? You do? Oh, you're funny.
This airport's a bit busy this morning.
Yeah, it's good for a change. We must just keep an eye out on Iveo that we don't get a ATC guy and we don't even know about it, Uncle John.
Yeah, I'm keeping my eye on it, Nico. You're right. I've got a cargo plane next to me, 747.
Okay.
One's just landed. Another one's taxiing. I think he's taxiing out.
Yeah, I see on the map it's busy.
And I've also got Tix 76 somewhere over there.
Yeah, that's me hiding.
Exactly.
Good morning, sir.
Righto. First things first, QNH is 1011. Let us step.
Trim down.
What am I doing? Okay, I have to wait for alignment, obviously. So, how many minutes? 1 minute for alignment, Uncle John. I'm gonna start my APU while we're talking.
Roger, sir.
Run to cockpit. Tow is driving up.
That's quite a big cargo plane next to you, Uncle John.
He is a big one. Cargo Lux, the extended version.
Nice.
I've just announced I'm pushing back, Nico.
Yeah, go for it. Right, we have alignment. All our doors are closed. Beacon on.
Okay, all doors and hatches are closed. Ready to connect.
Before start procedure.
Before start procedure.
Well, nobody's on approach at the moment.
Good morning, Gio. How are you doing?
Before start procedure completed.
Tow connected and bypass pin inserted. Release parking brake.
I'm just filling in my AU quickly. 25. Scout.
Starting pushback. And you may start engines.
Start number 2 engine.
Starting number 2 engine.
Wow, okay, you're all awake. That's awesome. Well, and then you can fly. One day, if you do that again, you must come fly with us.
25 and 2.
It's a race.
Starter cutout.
Start number 1 engine.
Starting number 1 engine.
I feel like a sandwich, Uncle John.
Well, the filling looks good.
You understood what I mean. There's a John and behind me is another John. Good morning, Kent. Welcome.
$25 and 2. Starter cutout. Engine start procedure complete at.
Operation complete. Set parking brake. Disconnecting tow. Stand by.
I thought I could take a shortcut right there. It's not going to work. I have to take the next one. So it will be Echo 8.
Yeah, you're in the wrong direction, sir.
Taxi lights on.
Listen. You can't taxi there. That's a taxi stand. Yo, look at that. Look. I'm writing you up. I'm telling you. Look at that. Look at
He's
that.
a very
I
naughty man.
didn't stop on it.
You didn't stop on it. You drove over it. You know what? I don't want to be funny. I think I've got a
Nobody
good...
was there.
Yeah, I know. I've got a good mind of doing the same thing. Uncle John, we're just having a bit of fun, man.
Noise disconnection pipe has been removed. Hand signal on the right. We'll see you next time and have a safe flight.
That's his defense when he drives through the supermarket.
Yeah,
I didn't
probably.
stop. I didn't stop.
Don't you
Exactly.
start, Paul. Don't you start.
Listen. This actually happened to me. I was literally 18 years old. Just got my first car. I was staying with my aunt in Pretoria, and I went to the local shopping center. It's a big, huge, open thing. It's not a mall. It's just a shopping center there next to the road. And I drove in between, the lanes like that. Where the car's supposed to park. And the next moment, the cop pulls me over. And he's very angry. Don't I know how to drive? I said to him, of course I do. I've got a license. I mean, now I'm in fight or flight mode, and I decided to fight. What the hell's your problem? And he gave me a lecture of driving over parking spaces. And I said to him, well, there's a tower. I said to him, well, I can understand if you're angry if this was a public road. This is a private property parking space of a shopping center. Yes, but he was angry at me. Let's see. Blinking tower. Yeah, at the last minute. Here we go. Let's grab our board and marker just in case. Tower, good morning. Skymatix 001 contacting you as per request. And now I'm pressing the wrong freaking button again. Tower, good morning. Skymatix 001. I'm contacting you as per your request.
Roger, I only want to select them online now.
What did he say?
Didn't hear.
Zürich Tower, good morning. Excellent 2 November. Taxiing on Echo 6 for runway 28 via LASUN.
Roger, excellent 2 November. Are you ready to copy clearance?
Ice firm, excellent 2 November.
Excellent 2 November, you are cleared to destination via runway 28. Take us to Whiskey departure route. Initial climb is 5,000 feet, squawk 3001.
Take us to Whiskey runway 28, initial 5000, Fox 3001, excellent.
Excellent. 2 November, continue taxi. Your tweetback is correct.
Continue taxi, excellent, 2 November.
Zurich, good morning, Charter Blocks 118, address Bushenstar.
Cargolux 118, please first make clearance. Are you ready to copy?
I don't have time for that. There's 1,000 guys sitting here on this apron wanting to go somewhere. Now I'm going to do exactly what Uncle John did just to get out of here. Oh,
Well, he left it a bit late, did he not?
yeah, no, I'm not going to go through the whole clearance and everything just to amuse
Taxi
him.
lights
I'm
on.
sorry. As much
I'd
as I
already
love
announced
ATC.
I'd already announced I was lining up and taking off.
Yeah, no, tough. As much as I love and respect the guys, there's a time and a place, you know, I mean, I'm not going to go through all of that. Before takeoff procedure.
He needs to do what we do, Nico. Get out of bed in the morning.
He did, otherwise he wouldn't be here, but it was a bit late. Yeah, one of those things.
Before takeoff procedure completed.
Yeah, chronic, yeah. Usually on a Saturday and a Sunday, I've got the 4 streams going, you know, so it's a usual thing for us.
Flaps 5 set.
I think I'm done. I think I'm ready. Let's go for terrain there. Right. We're ready to go.
Stabilized.
Approaching 3-4. On runway 3-4.
Takeoff thrust set.
Oh
80
no.
knots.
Hello, call. That doesn't sound good.
V1. Rotate. Positive rate.
Gear up.
Gear up. Runway turn off, lights off.
You got your pen and paper ready, Paul?
Oh yes, I've got a sizable piece of cardboard.
It's from the pizza box.
That's right.
Yeah. Right, we made the first restriction.
Flaps 1 set.
Right, I'm back on IMAO. Abhishek, I'm good and very well. How are you doing?
Approaching transition. Flaps up. And set. Transition altitude.
Yeah, we've made these last two restrictions real easy.
What a beautiful morning.
Carl, that is because of SimBrief. That's a SimBrief format. So the only way to get around it, there's two ways. Let me give it to you. If you go to output FMS plans, these are your plans. So there you can see that one was taken from SimBrief and that one was taken from Navigraph. So you either have to come in here and remove the 01 to just change the name, or you go to, now I clicked on this thing, hold on, or you go to Navigraph. I'll show you now. Click the wrong screen here. If you go to Navigraph, you go to flights and export over there. If you export from Navigraph, you get additional benefits. You know, you get your certain star and runway and everything already in there, and then you will not get that 01. You see, then it's just without the 01. Let me show you. There it is, without the 01. But unfortunately, that is the SimBrief format. I'm not sure if you can set the SimBrief format any different. welcome. Right, so let's go to the other map for now.
Loads of Cirrus this morning.
Beautiful area to fly in. Okay, so for those of you that joined late or happened to notice in any event the title of the stream, this is now Zibo mod version 16C of 49, and Zibo overnight did some magic again on this VNAV idle descent path and the speeds. So if I look at what he said, let me get these notes. He says he's fixed the code, the idle code, so, and the deceleration. So I'm hoping if we look at this chart, there's a restriction and there's a speed and altitude restriction. And after yesterday, for those of you who have not seen the stream from last night, Zibo was actually here with us in Discord, and he was giving us some very nice tips and tricks. And for the guys who were there, I promised I will make a little PDF, you know, put it in my private hangar so you guys can see the rules that the aircraft fly against. But I'm holding back a little bit because I just want to clarify one or two things with Zibo before I actually publish it. I'm like 95% done with that document. And we had a long discussion about the flight level restrictions and when do you press the standard button to go to your local QNH and when do you leave it and by what time, because there are certain rules at play all of a sudden in the Zibo mod that have not been there yet, you know. So there's a little bit of training and technical know-how that's gonna have to come, you know, to make the Zibo work properly, because if you don't follow the rules, the mod will still work properly, but the displays will look as if it's not working, and we don't want any confusion, and it happens if you press the button at the wrong time. So that's one of the tests we're going to do today.
Is there anything I need to know this morning, Nico?
No, sir.
Okay.
I think, Uncle John, yeah, you were not here. The gist of it is, if you look at that chart, let's go back there. Let me show you. Are you watching my stream or not?
I will be, just give me a sec.
Okay.
I don't feel a bit tired today.
Good on you, Linda. Oh, and for the guys who joined late, look, I've got a nice shiny new tablet that Jared made for me as well. So that's the first time it's now shown. Okay, Uncle John. So if you look at that chart, you'll see we've got a altitude restriction of flight level 160 there at Amdut. And then we have an altitude and a speed restriction at flight level 70. Now, typically, I think the transition altitude should be written here. There you go. Transition altitude at Gatwick is 6,000 right? So if we go back to that chart, that restriction is a flight level. In other words, that needs to be flown at standard QNH. You can't be here at 16,000 and then press your standard button and switch to local QNH, because then your aircraft will not be, even though the display says you might be at 7,000, you're not going to be at 7,000 because there's a discrepancy in what the altimeter knows and what you think you know. So we're going to test this. We want to make sure that we are at 7,000 feet on a flight level, so in standard atmospheric pressure, and we want to see if we can achieve the 220 knots. Now, in between this point and that point, somewhere probably here, I'm just basing it on the figure there of the maximum 250 knots, that is probably the 10,000 foot transition, where we have to then go below the 10,000. Now, this is a very good example because in normal circumstances, usually, okay, it depends on which part of the world you fly in, your 10,000 foot / 250 knot restriction is usually the last flight level restriction, and thereafter you can press your standard button. But in this instance, it's very clearly not. So you have to check your charts, make sure you understand that is a flight level. So you have to be on standard atmospheric pressure 10132992 over there, which then means there is going to be a slowdown on that little point over there, Kilo Echo 64, which we need to test, make sure that the aircraft slows down, or at least indicates the speed, and then leave us to pull the lever, either or. We're going to look at that. Then we're going to make sure we're on the right altitude, right speed there, and thereafter, if we now look at the initial approach, you see now there's no speed restrictions that I can pick up, unless I'm blind. No, I don't see any. See, now you're just going to descend over there, and you'll have to manage your speed for the initial approach there. So anyway, after that point there, you get that VOR. Now somewhere over here, you probably, or it's going to be just after the VOR, but it's going to be in this stretch, you're going to hit the transition. Okay, now we devised a rule of thumb for the flight simmers that I will also discuss with you guys, Uncle John, when we get to that planning stage. So please keep my stream running somewhere that you can see what I'm talking about. We've got a rule of thumb. It's not something cast in stone. It's not using a calculator. It's a rule of thumb that we devised to just make it easier for the flight simmers to know when to press the button. Okay, so I'm going to talk about that a little bit later, because somewhere here you're going to have to press it so that when you get to a place where it says there you need to be at 3,000 foot at DME 18 there, that you are actually at the right place. So that transition between standard atmosphere and local QNH has all of a sudden in this version now become a big thing. It's something that you need to know about. It's something that you have to understand and use correctly. Otherwise, what you see on your instruments is not going to be what the actual aircraft is doing or performing. You understand? So that's where the new knowledge needs to come in.
Okay, I think this is going to require another classroom job.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna talk through the gist
Once
of
you've
it.
got it clarified.
Yeah. I need to. We're doing this flight. Then I need to put the last touches on my questions and things for Zibo. Me and Paul still need to talk about it as well. Mac was with us last night as well. We need to just come to an agreement of how we're gonna give this knowledge to you guys, because we don't want to waffle, and the last thing we want is for a real pilot to say, now you're talking nonsense. You understand? So there's a fine line to tread between being a flight simmer and not really caring about all the laws and physics and science that goes into this and the mathematics, and just helping yourself. There's a fine line, and we just want to reach that.
Thank you.
Yeah, you see, Chronic, that is how all of us have been doing it. I have to confess, I've been one of the guys teaching exactly that procedure that you're talking about. But because of the actual way that the Boeing works, you can't really do that. Not in this model at all anymore. So, again, we don't know when that rule changed, but I can tell you that it's no longer compatible with the Zibo. You're going to have a flight level problem, especially when you've got restrictions. Now you can argue that if the ATC gives you a command, you know, usually it means he's overriding the restrictions. But the Zibo, as long as the FMC has got that plan in it, the Zibo mod will follow the rules. And in order for you to understand how the one block fits into the next block and how to build this thing, you're going to have the knowledge to know that and understand that even if the ATC clears you to let's say 3,000 foot on that waypoint, let's say he tells you to go there, 3,000 foot at a QNH of 1018, for instance, your knowledge needs to tell you that the Zibo mod is going to fly this according to the rule. So you need to comply with the mod now. You need to press the button only when it's there somewhere, you know, or there, or at least after this point. Because if you press the button, it's very simple to really think about it. Let's say you've got a guy inbound to Heathrow and he's using that very same point. Now you coming from this side, you're using that point. If you are not both on standard atmosphere at that point, you're going to crash or potentially crash. Sorry, I should have said it differently. It's still true, because the ATC guys will have to then manage your separation basically. But you got to understand that there's a reason that is at a certain speed at a certain flight level, because I don't know what the approach to Heathrow looks like. It might just be one off. You might go through there, or I don't know. But the fact of the matter is there's a reason why these things are in place, and the ATC, in his haste to get you down at that point at 3,000, obviously understands that you understand how the Boeing works, and this is what we need to teach the guys now. The Boeing is going to fly this, and until you get there and you switch to your standard, by switching standard over here, you're messing up your transition for 10,000 and you're messing up the transition of that one. I hope you understand. I've said a lot of things now, but you shouldn't mess up the transitions, basically, in a nutshell. So, and to cut out all the rambling and all the chatter, we have to put it in writing. Give you a small little PDF that says this is the way you should do it, because otherwise you're going to end up not being at the right place at the right altitude. As easy as that. And you'll never get the correct displays, because it just won't give it to you.
I await your text document.
Yes. Exactly, he could, and then things change again. But now you've still got the transition for 10,000 foot. Somewhere here you've still got a transition 10,000 foot. So the rule of thumb basically is going to include something that's going to say, do not press the standard button and go to local QNH until you've transitioned 10,000 feet. Below 10,000 feet, press it. And then you can start complying with all the other rules. Now, if you get vectored and you don't have to meet that place, then it's irrelevant. Because let's say, for instance, he takes you from there to there so that you can turn in for the landing. So from there to there, you're not even close to that point. You're on vectors. But you're never going to get away from the last restriction. The last restriction in this flight plan traveling this way is 10,000/240. That is your last restriction. And before you hit 10,000/240, you can't press the standard button. If you press it, you're going to get your transition to 10,000 in the wrong place. You're either going to be high or low, depending on the difference in your QNH. And this is you know, getting hairy when you start talking about this, because what about this scenario? What about that scenario? So we're trying to just make it easier to give you the knowledge to understand the relevance of the different restrictions. It's getting really interesting, I must be honest. This is really getting interesting. Yeah, I see what you mean there with Timber. Barry, don't worry, mate, don't worry. But treat it like a bicycle, okay? Just get on again later on and just try it again. But you're okay, you're good. Don't let it freak you out there.
Yeah, I just couldn't follow the instructions and she started yelling at me.
Oh.
Quite correctly.
Sure. Antonio, I'm glad you mentioned, who was it? Antonio? Yes, vectors. I'm glad you mentioned the vectors, because I didn't think of putting that in the notes. We're going to have to put that in. Because if you don't have an actual point on a chart, your final restriction will be 10/240. Thanks for that. Barry?
Poor guy.
Yeah. Barry, if Barry comes back, you must just tell me. Antonio, that's also true. That is also true. But for the guys not flying with ATC, not having ATIS, not having that facility, there is now a rule that needs to come into their minds. They're going to have to add the rules, you know, and understand the rules. If you use a calculator, the actual calculation, it's not always 1000, it differs. But in our rule of thumb, we're going to try and make it easier on everybody, and we're going to say to you, add 1500, as easy as that. Just add 1500. So anyway, let's go there. Let's start looking at this. So we're going to go to VNAV, next page, forecast page. Okay. So as you can see, the Zibo mod reads the transition level from the Navigraph data. Right, so there it clearly says transition altitude is 6000, but we can't use 6000. That's going to be too late. So what we're saying now is flight level, now add 1500, is 075. Right, so the reason we want you to use that is when you get on a standard QNH, standard atmospheric pressure, 10132992, when you get to that level that you specify, this will turn yellow. All right, at the moment that turns yellow, all you need to do, I can't see it from this angle, all you need to do is press the standard. Now obviously you need to have the actual QNH already in standby mode, so let's quickly just have a look. So I just want to go to active sky quickly. EGKK. So I'm just picking up, so that will be 1007. Right, so you have to have that in place. Right, see, it's in standby mode. So the moment you press standard, it's going to just flick over. Sorry, let me turn it. It's going to flick over and it's going to become the active QNH. So if we go back here, now we know that's in place. Even if you don't fill anything else in on this page,
Takeoff
you
was okay
have to
today.
put the QNH in there as well, which is then 1007. Well, with or without ATC, Antonio, the principle is this: you cannot change to local QNH until you have passed the final and the last flight level restriction. And in most cases, it is flight level 100/240. That's your last restriction. In a lot of cases. So again, it's all about now getting the knowledge and then taking the knowledge into practice, you know, and do what you need to do. So let me come back to what I'm talking about here. So Uncle John, you're following?
I am indeed, sir.
Okay. So you have to put the transition level. The transition level is based upon transition altitude plus 1,500. The 1,500 buys you time to press standard. That's all it is. Okay. If you want to get very technical, you're going to have to find the actual formula, and then you're going to add 500, 800, 900, 1,200, whatever it is to make you happy. You know, it depends on your OCD, I suppose, you know, how OCD you are about this. Transition level. Well, it's not going to change the transition level. The transition level is cast in stone. It's literal. It's published. You can't change the transition level at all. The transition altitude. What am I saying? You cannot change the transition altitude. By changing that, the only function that has to give you the transition flight level is to give you the cue to say, listen, you need to now switch over. I don't see any other function of it. There is no other function. And you have to have that QNH, because you see what now happens is this. Your VNAV descent path that you are on, as long as you are in standard and as long as you are above your transition flight level, this Zibo mod, like the real Boeing, is going to calculate your VNAV path based on 1013. The moment you go below your transition flight level, hang on. Okay, Zibo's helping me. He's typing. Thanks, Zibo. I'll explain that again. Yes, it should. In theory, Antonia. Okay, so what Zibo is saying here is, I said to you guys that this reads from Navigraph data. He says, no, I'm wrong. It actually reads it from the apt.dat in your custom scenery or explain data. So it comes from the actual airport information. Zibo, am I correct? And I know I am, but I'm just checking with you. If you look at the actual Zibo aircraft folder, once it reads the data from the APT, it actually writes it in there. Alright, so it goes, it scans everything. That's why it sometimes takes a wee while to update everything and so on. And that file gets created. So there you go. So it reads from there. Let's see now. Okay. Yes. Okay. Yeah, that's exactly what I was getting to. So what he's saying is the FMC will calculate the descent path based on the descent forecast page. This is it. And these two values, in my opinion, are the most important ones. Now, what you can do to assist further, which he is also pointing out to me, obviously, is you can add your winds to help a little bit. But like I said earlier, even if you don't fill in everything, at least have that, and at least have that. So I'm just gonna grab the winds now anyway. I'm not sure how far we are from top of descent, so we need to move a bit. Right, so 125, 16. 16. 152. 9. And 83. And 7. There you go. Alright, so that takes care of that page.
I'm just wondering why some of your figures are different to mine.
What, the wind figures?
Yeah, I've got 20,000. I've got 120 17, 143 11, 89 7.
I don't know, Uncle John, it's probably from a different observation. You know, they update the observations from time to time, you know, so you obviously have a different revision.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Zibo is still typing, guys, so he's wanting to add a lot of value in here this morning again. Thank you, Zibo. I'll tell you guys what he says as he's finished typing.
Hey, good morning, Zeba. Million thanks from all us guys for the continued work with the Zebo. Thank you.
Excellent. Oh, and by the way, Steve, I'm sorry, I was just talking a lot. Congratulations on getting that flight done successfully this time. Wonderful. Todd, yeah. I haven't flown this route in a while. It's the first time in a while I'm doing this.
Barry, you flying?
No, I bailed out.
Understood. Okay, so what Zibo is saying is something, he's touching on something I mentioned earlier about when the ATC gives you different instructions and overrides the restrictions with, you know, we talked about the vector going a different way and all these things. So he is still of the opinion that if ATC gives you QNH during descent, you should set a barrow to QNH. You should check your setting in the descent forecast page and manage plane yourself. Okay. Well, Paul, that's clarified a whole bunch of things for us right there, just in one sentence. So what he says is, if the ATC gives you an instruction to ignore the star, basically, all you need to do is make sure that this QNH and the QNH that the ATC gives you is correct, because the moment you go under your 10,000 feet and that last restriction, then you know that you will be on the correct place. Now that makes perfect sense. So if so Zibo, if you are at, let's say, 14,000 feet and the ATC says descend 3,000 feet QNH 1007, are you saying you press that standard button right there and then, or do you still have to wait for the 10,000 foot transition before you press the standard button? I will type for you, don't worry. So to clarify,
I'm guessing 10,000 feet.
I don't know, we're gonna 0, and the ATC gives you sent to 3,000 feet at QNH 1011. Do you press the STD button immediately or after 10.23/240. So I'm asking just for clarification. So that will give me peace. It will give me peace, because then I think I really understand it. Johan, that's a next step, brother. We'll get there. We'll get there. It's not important right there and then at this time. You see, that Antonio is my worry as well. If you have an emergency stop and that guy says stop descending right now and you hit the altitude button, okay, if you are on the local QNH but you're, let's say, at 11,000 feet, then there's going to be a discrepancy. Then you'll think you're at 11,000 feet. Your system will tell you you're at 11,000 feet, but because the QNH is wrong, you're not going to be at 11,000 feet.
Yeah, I think that's a memory item. If you're told to stop at a flight level, then you immediately hit the standard button again.
Yeah, but remember, we all want to be like the real guys and all these things. But in the heat of the moment, I mean, look at Barry. Barry, I'm using him as an example, okay? Sorry, I hope you don't mind.
That's fine.
I mean, look at Barry now, okay? He's new. He's desperately wanting to fly like the real guys, and he starts that descent and this woman starts screaming at him. You know, what options do you have? Are you going to panic and disconnect from the network and then just settle and continue, or are you going to remember at that point in time, bloody hell, I'm not at standard, do I press the button? Which for me as a flight simmer, it just makes more sense to have a rule that says wait until you're in a better position before you press the button. Now, I know this is me, it's my opinion, and you're allowed to have a different opinion. But we'll wait and see what Zibo says, and then we'll cast that in stone, if I can put it that way. Because I mean, I'm just debating it, so I'm not going against anything any of you are saying. We're debating it to get to a plausible, workable solution. And I just think if you start shouting at the flight simmer all of a sudden, stop descent, and they hit that altitude button, I don't even know how many of them actually know that you can stop your descent by just pressing the altitude hold button. You understand? So there's that too. Now we've pressed the button. Okay, I'm going to tell you what he says just now. So for me, I'm about just making it easier to remember and easier to execute when you're under pressure. You understand? And so on.
Yeah, and after all, standard does turn yellow to remind you. So
Yes.
You're quite right. You could just leave it as it is, and press the button when it prompts you to.
Exactly.
And provided you've entered the figures in your descent forecast page correctly, as you were explaining earlier, it looks after itself.
Well, that's my thought too. So Zibo says you can set the barrow after crossing flight level 1. Well, I think he's meaning 10,000 feet. Okay, so flight level 100. But you need to remember QNH, because ATC can say your level off at 5,000 without telling you the QNH again. Okay, yes, Zibo, I agree, and this is what Paul just said and what I said earlier. We need to teach the guys to program the FMC and the PFD correctly. You see, already in your descent planning, if you have the correct QNH, okay, and if that QNH corresponds to what the ATC says when he gives you the instruction, it's already in place. Then it's a matter of waiting for standard to turn yellow and press the button. The trick is teaching the guys now to have that thing in place, and that value and that value needs to be the same. And once those things are in place, the ATC can tell you to level off at whatever altitude they want. Whether it's a flight level or an altitude is going to be irrelevant, because you're not going to press the standard button until it goes yellow, until you've reached your calculated transition level. So you'll be on the correct flight level above that. And if you then press the standard button to go to local QNH, that QNH and that QNH corresponds, and you have a seamless transition, and you can stop at the actual 5,000 feet or 3,000 feet that the ATC tells us. And this is the mind bend that we have to now get around to make sure that we get the correct transitions and the correct speeds, and for this system to look as if it's doing the right thing instead of doing something that is right but the displays are wrong.
Nico, before it gets too close, are you set up for your approach?
No. I've done some of it, Uncle John, not all of it. Let's quickly look at that. Thank you, Uncle John. Thank you, Zibo. Thank you, sir. As always, you are making us very clever again. Okay, so I will not publish that document, Zibo, before you have given me your blessing on it, that we all understand each other. Me and Paul and Mac will probably have a look at it again. We'll make sure that what we teach the guys as flight simmers, because that clause will be in there. This is not about teaching you how to fly in the real world. We're going to bring it as close as possible. But we also don't want to kill you guys, you know, with all these technical things. And remember, in the real aircraft, there are two guys, you know. The one guy takes care of one thing while the other guy flies, or whatever you want to call it. You know what I'm saying? So we've got to just find an easy way for the flight simmers to enjoy it as close as possible to reality.
Paris Centre's come online.
What?
Paris Centre has come online, so be
okay.
prepared.
Yeah, if he calls me, we'll talk to him. Until then, I'm quickly going to set up the aircraft. Thank you, Uncle John. Well, the last thing we want to do is teach nonsense. We don't want to teach nonsense. But we've got to understand that flight simmers are not qualified real pilots. There's a fine line between killing yourself in the flight simulator, trying to be fancy, and actually just flying it reasonably correct. Hello, Adam. Zibo's typing again.
I'm just short of my top of descent, Nico.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm getting close to. You know what, Antonio, I've been in this situation a few times, and you know what's funny about the path that I've chosen to teach people how to fly this is I've had guys from Norwegian that fly with a certain SOP. Then I've got Ryanair that fly at a certain SOP. And then within Ryanair and within Norwegian, depending on the regions that they fly, they have different SOPs. Okay, so the risk that you run talking to the real world pilots is some of those guys, not all of them, are so conditioned to fly in their environment with their SOP that they think the others are doing it incorrectly. So I've had a few discussions of that, and that's why I always refer back to Zibo. Zibo is the final word, the final say. If Lubos says this is the law, it's the law. I don't argue with him because this is his creation. You understand? But there unfortunately is sometimes where you've got to say, listen guys, And you can see that in his design philosophy here. There are certain things you can switch on and switch off in the EFB that makes it easier or harder to actually work for flight simmers to be more realistic for a certain SOP, for a certain whatever. You see, you get it. You're always going to get that. And Zibo has tried his best, and we're all grateful for that, that he's given options. The one guy wants analog devices, the other guy wants this ISFD, So you can choose whether you want simply or realistic. There are many such settings in there. At the end of the day, when Sasso comes onto my channel here and the official videos we made on the approaches, when those real world guys talk, there's a certain level of expectation. But I mean, us simmer guys, it's a tightrope. What can I say? Thanks for subscribing, Martinov. No, I'll do the flap speed thing just now. Zibo has just confirmed exactly what I said. It's all about the SOPs. McTrying actually, Zibo, he showed me in the Prune forum. There are certain carriers that press the button the moment ATC says, descend 3,000 foot QNH 1011. Those guys press it. Then there are other carriers that say, no ways, we're doing this at 10,000 feet. And it's pointless to argue with the people. At the end of the day, when you are flying this aircraft, you're going to use your SOP or what somebody taught you. All we want to do is to give you the knowledge to understand why you're doing something and why you shouldn't do something. If that makes sense. So, Zibo, you're right. I'll speak to Alex and Sasso when they come back, but those guys are so busy. And Jan even, I mean, the guys are flying in real world now like crazy again, and good for them, but well, I'll send them a message maybe. I personally think the whole story is about your transition flight level. Until you reach that flight level, don't press that button. Once that thing goes yellow, press it. Because if you need to stop, you're going to be at the right flight level. If you need to stop below that, you're going to be at the right altitude. You see, Antonio, I think that too. That's part of the Zibo design philosophy, I think, from experience now. It's not about right and wrong. It's about you've got your SOP, I've got my SOP, but let's share the knowledge. Let's help each other to understand why and why not. And then you can make your own decision from there. Nico SOP. Lekker man, lekker. Okay, 3.53, we need to drop 500, so 62. Right. Okay, Zibo, I'm glad you're here, because now we can actually show you the performance live. Okay, if we get additional ATC like at Gatwick or London Centre or something, I'm going to drop off the network again, because I really don't want them to come and upset the whole test that I've set up now. So just bear that in mind, guys. I'll just drop off the network. Oh, come on. I hate it when this mouse gets stuck. Okay. I know, Christer, that is why I said then I would rather disconnect from my VEO, because the whole test has now been set up. All the charts are in place, everything. If it changes now, it just means I've wasted my time and I have to do another test flight. So then I'll just drop off the network. Good morning, Kies.
Goedemorgen heren.
Gaan het goed?
Gaat prima. Met jou ook?
Ja, hetzelfde. No worries, Christer.
Nico, could we have the arrival chart, please, and perhaps the legs page?
Your wish is my command. I'll zoom in when the aircraft gets onto the page.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I'm just reading through something else Zibo put into our private chat here. One of the things that I don't think a lot of people initially think about until maybe they're made aware of it, the flight simulator, the platform, also has certain limitations. Even Navigraph has certain limitations, and there are certain limitations then inherently given to Zibo that is difficult or impossible to actually put into the mod. So there are certain things that even he can't really put into the aircraft to simulate the real aircraft to that level because of the limits that's in the actual platform or the supporting platforms like Navigraph. It's interesting. I'm just reading through what he said here about how the Zibo gets its information. The FMC reads the transition level from the apt.dat. That is in your custom scenery or in your explained data. Alright. Navigraph don't include transition altitude or level data, so he can't extract it from there. Alright. So he gets it from the raw explained data or your add-on scenery. Alright, and then there's a rule that applies that says if a transition altitude data does not exist in that apt.dat, by default the transition altitude is 18,000 foot. If a transition level data doesn't exist, if the transition level data doesn't exist, the transition level and the transition altitude is accepted to be the same altitude. So Paul, I think that answers why we get the default value and not we get the transition altitude and not the transition flight level, because the data doesn't exist.
Yeah, absolutely. And it shows why it's so important to actually check the chart.
Yeah, and actually learn to fly more proper. You know, to read the chart, to implement the data that is available so that the aircraft will fly more real. Because in the simulator and supporting information, the data doesn't exist. So you can't just create data out of thin air. That's freaking interesting. Antonio, exactly. Christer, we all know that, but again, when you were not in the discussion yet, we already discussed the difference between a single pilot flight simmer having to fly this aircraft using a rule of thumb is easier than to have a spreadsheet or a calculator and having to now add that to the workload, while in the real world you've got all kinds of tools and you've got a second pilot with you and things like that. So we've already discussed that we want to simplify the rule of thumb to help you fly more real without breaking your back.
Yeah, and by the time you get to the stage that you're aware that it's more complicated, then you can take it on yourself.
Exactly. Then it's up to you to go do those calculations and fly more real. And like Johan said, I mean, we also know that the winds in the SimBrief OFP are old winds, you know. Okay, Todd, that's awesome. Great stuff. I haven't watched some of his videos in a while, so thanks for enlightening us on that one. But yeah, I mean, things happen, you know. What did I want to say about Johan now? Let me just scroll up.
Okay, we've got a restriction coming up, haven't we?
Okay, yeah, thank you. So we need to be at 16, and we are reasonably close. Look at that wind all of a sudden, pushing us a bit. Alright, well there we are. We were reasonably close. I mean, I'm not going to cry about that. Oh yes, Johan was talking about active sky, and that's where I was aiming when Todd spoke up there. We all know the active sky weather is the real weather in the sim, and the SimBrief weather is old. So there's that too, you know. How much OCD do you want to put into this? How, to what level do you want to go? That's going to be a personal choice. We're going to give you the rule of thumb, and then you take it to the next level. There's a bit of a huge dip in between those 2 points. So I am using the speed brake. You should hear it, and you should see the shaking. I mean, it is braking right now to just try and keep the speed intact. So the next restriction is obviously going to be the 10,000 foot restriction. There we have those little balls showing up. Yeah. What did you guys call it the other day? I can't even remember. It was a funny term you guys gave it, but nonetheless, those things are there. Antonio, if you look on the approach chart there, look, the speed is come down, but look how fast we are. It didn't really lift the nose for us at 10,000. See there, now we're under the glide slope. Sorry, not glide slope, under the VNAV path. Antonio, if you look on this chart, you'll see there it talks about your 4,000 that you are familiar with. Your hold and everything is at 4,000. I'm not sure why this chart, and it's clearly a Navigraph / Jefferson chart. I'm not sure what that's about. You'll have to go investigate that. I've taken speed brake off. So in this test, the aircraft had a huge jump to go from Amdit down to this waypoint, you know, so it actually sped up quite a bit. I should probably have pulled the speed brake a bit earlier. Now, if you look at the Zibo FMC, look here, Antonio, it's also, it's reading 4,000 or above.
Approaching transition.
Alright, so in the forecast page, our transition by rule of thumb has been set, and we are now waiting for it to reach that level, and then we're going to go on to the local QNH. And what I want to do is make sure that we still have that QNH, that it has not changed. No, it's still 1007.
Transition
there you
level.
go. Yellow. Now we have bought ourselves time by the rule of thumb, and all we can do is press the standard, and there you go. That's true, Johan, but it's not really relevant to the discussion. The discussion we are in is about version 16 that I'm testing. So it's a good answer, but not really relevant to what we're talking about and the test that we are doing. So keep that in the back of your mind. We'll get back to that one at some point in time. Uncle John.
Yes, sir.
I've got John TCAS.
Okay. I need to discuss with you and Paul something after as well.
What did I do now?
Negative. What happened with my aircraft through 10,000?
Okay, cool.
In other words, I won't close down after so and go back to it.
Okay. Hello, Ryan.
Thousand to level off.
I forgot my mic's muted. Sorry, guys. Antonio, I just wanted to point out that the Zibo mod actually complied with the 4,000, you know, and we've got our descent from 4,000 over there again. Understand, Johan. Understand. Very, very sure. Very definitely, Antonio. My instinct in every flight I do is to trust the FMC first and then the chart second. As long as the FMC and the chart, you know, I've got the necessary information that are overlapping, you know, and you can see that this chart is more accurate than the previous one I just closed. I trust the FMC. Are we there yet, Uncle John?
I'm just approaching established.
Okay.
Nico, for your information, you're 20 miles in front of me.
Thank you, sir.
Established.
Thousand to go.
Yeah, Cole, the hold, according to this chart, is actually at 4,000, which is why we are querying the discrepancy. I, for the life of me, cannot tell you why on earth the one chart says 7,000 and the other one says 4,000. Yeah, it could be vectors, could be a whole bunch of things, you know. I reckon if you come in a little bit higher, it will be easier to vector you. You know, it gives more room to vector. Whereas if you come in, you know, blindly on the actual numbers, you know, now you're going to be low and slow and all these things.
Flaps 1 set. Flaps 5 set.
This looks like another one of those fun approaches we had here yesterday. That was really fun.
Localizer capture.
Thanks, Krister.
Visibility just about workable.
Okay, okay. You know what I haven't said, and I'm glad you tell me, because let's do this.
396 barrel.
No. I'm gonna go on the radio. I'm gonna go 50. So I have to roll it very slowly, otherwise it jumps. Okay. Yeah, and I haven't had a lot of issues with Simlink since the last big cry out day. It's really been good, stable.
Flaps 15 set.
Right, I'm on approximately 5.5 mile final now.
Flaps 30 set.
Okay, well, Zibo, I hope the autoland works today. I'm gonna try an autoland. I haven't done one in a long time.
feet, stabilized, Mr. Burchell.
Taxi lights on.
That other runway is very deceptive. My eyes catches that one first and I go, wait, what? And I've got to think very quickly.
Confirm you're offline.
Negative. No, I'm definitely online.
You're not on IVAO.
I am.
Okay.
Approaching 08 right.
I can see you in front of me.
400. Approaching minimums. 100. 50. Minimum. 40. 30. 20. 10.
Reverse unlocked.
Beautiful. That was lovely.
Welcome to Gatwick.
Thank you, sir. Oh, that was lovely. Right, auto brake disengaged.
4,000 feet remaining.
At least the auto brake off.
60 knots.
That was beautiful.
Brilliant landing.
3,000
nice one,
remaining.
Sir.
On final.
Okay, I'll be off the runway just now. Zibo, your autoland code works really well on this runway. Really well.
I hung on to the last second and then I saw the runway, so I continued.
Excellent, excellent. I didn't find any spares on the runway, Uncle John, so it looks like you did a good job.
Oh, bless you.
Yeah, thank you guys. That was the Zibo code landing. Zibo made it work for us, auto land and all. I haven't done one in a long time, so I just thought that would be fun. Yeah, apparently the correct QNH. After landing procedure.
After landing procedure.
And now I've got rain, Uncle John.
I've had rain all the way down, Nico. Well, the last 2,000 or 3,000.
After landing procedure completed.
And it's mucky.
Yeah, I think we'll do a replay or two when we're done, eh?
Yes, please. And then, as I say, with you and Paul later,
yeah,
I need to show you something.
Okay.
Flaps up. And set.
You see, now we've got these vending machines that we have to pay again.
I've paid for your parking.
Thank you, sir. That's much appreciated.
I use the company card.
Oh, that's perfect. There's lots of millions in that one. As long as it's not my personal one, I'm happy. I'll stick you for the steak and chips and things. You and me and John and whoever else, you know, we want to go to a proper restaurant.
I've already phoned through and ordered.
Thank you so much.
Table for 3 on our own.
Shutdown procedure.
Shutdown procedure.
Ooh.
Welcome to Gatwick, John.
Thanks a lot.
Okay, well, where's my landing rate? Landing rate 116 foot per minute. That was soft.
Shutdown procedure completed.
Yeah, there's other John.
Speed brakes are still up, John.
Thanks for the info.
Antonio, it's difficult to say. I need to speak to Zibo about it because I'm not exactly sure, you know, what he changed. You know, I need to get it into perspective, in other words. In terms of, from a flight simmer's perspective, I like what what I see. Things have changed. You know, it seems to be more in line with what we're expecting. This was a particularly weird a star that we had to fly where it had that big dip in it. You know, that, I mean, if I'd pulled the speed brake a little bit earlier, you know, if I'd anticipated better, I could have probably handled the speed better. The mod did not lift the nose sufficiently at 10,000 foot to actually brake, but the speed tape did adjust, you know, to indicate that the mod knows it needs to slow down. But now you've got this 65-ton boulder falling out the sky, you know, and you need to try and stop that. So I don't know. I'm gonna have to speak to Zibo. We're probably gonna do more test flights. You know, then we'll know better. But at this point in time, I like what I've seen. You know, for me, because I don't know the nitty gritty as such, if I can put it that way. You know, I'm not too familiar with all the rules and stuff like Zibo and the real pilots are. So we'll have to see. But for me, it's behaving quite nicely.
Can you believe towers? Just come on.
Oh, cool. Well, bye-bye, tower. I'm gonna disconnect and then I'm gonna do a replay quickly. Let's see. Yeah, it is a naturally slippery little aircraft, you know, it just is. Ooh, look at how everything has changed. Ah. They put diesel in. They forgot that it was not supposed to be diesel. Spooky.
Nico Ghost.
Mm.
It's amazing.
There he is.
Very misty, eh?
Well, looking at that, you'd have been hard pushed to have come in without auto land.
Mm.
Mine wasn't quite that bad.
Zibo is even thanking me for doing an auto land. Oh, you're welcome, Zibo.
Bless him.
He says he hasn't really checked and improved any of the code lately in the auto land. So thank you, Zibo. That was then a good option of mine. Well, anyway, okay. That brings us to the end of this flight. if Zibo needs more test flights, you might get the surprise later on and we do more. He's not mentioned when this version is going to be available. I'm not sure. So I can't answer that question, unfortunately. Maybe let's ask him. Are you planning on releasing 16 today? Let's see if he answers us, then we all know. I'm not sure if he's seeing the message. Yeah. Christer, we're going to polish it. This is the rough diamond, the second stream only where we started discussing all these things. So guys, when it's done, I'll make the announcement wherever I need to, and I'll have the PDF in my private hangar, so you guys can pick up on the rule of thumb and the thinking behind it, you know, so we can just make it a bit easier for you guys. But I like the realism aspect and having to think a little bit, you know, it wasn't just a normal flight. Paul?
Yes, Nico.
Anything to add?
Not at this stage, I don't think.
Okay. Anybody else? Anything you guys want to add?
Nothing for the moment.
All right. Zibo says the answer to the question, are you planning to release 16 today? He said maybe yes. So it's not concrete. It's not in stone. So you guys, we'll let you know. Go have fun, spend some time with the family, relax on this beautiful Sunday, and then we'll see what happens. The group flight at 1500 Zulu will be from Baltimore to Boston. I planned it before actually knowing that, you know, what Zibo was trying to achieve with version 16. So it is in line, but it also isn't in line. The kind of test that we need to do currently isn't really made for the US 18,000 foot transition. So, I mean, we're still going to fly it. We're going to enjoy it. You guys are welcome to come and join us. But I just want to mention it to you. The kind of stuff we're doing now is not really for the US market and US area. It's more for the outside because transition levels and flight levels are much lower than 18 and, you know, these kind of things. So just bear that in mind. But until we speak later again, you guys go have fun. We'll talk later. Bye-bye for now.
Bye, thank you.
Bye-bye.